Hello. Welcome to Art Inquiry. I'm your host, Duncan Elkins, and today is a very special day for me. I don't generally spend a lot of time giving large introductions, as most of you who watch Art Inquiry know, but today I have a little something to say. There's a 9-year-old in our neighborhood, the daughter of good friends of mine who live nearby, and it's been her birthday this week. She's spending the weekend reading the new Harry Potter book. As a birthday present from her grandmother, she has a copy of the Diary of Anne Frank on her reading table. There's the Artemis Fowl books. Anyone who has children around will know those books. But as of today, there's a new book on her reading stand, and it's called Fat, Stupid, Ugly: One Woman's Courage to Survive. And it's by my friend and about my friend, Debrah Const. Now, I've known Debrah for at least 12 years. And this week, in preparing for today's interview, I found out how little I actually know about Debrah Const. So today we're going to talk about Debrah and her book, Fat, Stupid, Ugly: One Woman's Courage to Survive, published in the year 2004 by Health Communications. Debrah Const, welcome to Art Inquiry.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
I tell you, you don't look one day older than I met you on the beach 12 years ago.
That's what happens when we both age at the same time.
I aged, you didn't. Congratulations on your autobiography.
Thank you.
Tell me about that title. Why Fat, Stupid, Ugly? Why such a provocative
It didn't even seem provocative when I decided that was the title, because that was the... Did she stop?
Keep going.
Oh. That was the labels. That was the labels that we were given as children. I was fat, stupid, and ugly, and remained fat, stupid, and ugly my entire life. Another sister was brilliant, beautiful, and talented. She has remained brilliant, beautiful, and talented. And the other one was normal. Now, none of these labels matched anybody, but those were the labels that were given by both parents. So if you're told you're fat every day, if you're told you're so fat, you're so stupid, then you think that.
Yes.
No matter how big.
And like most labels, it's on the inside. We didn't see the label, but you did every time you got up.
Right.
Because, you know, the label's on the inside of the jacket.
Right, and that it was so harmful till really till I started a place called home, when I really, being fat, big, huge, was a benefit, because I saw myself as 6'3" and several hundred pounds, so I was capable of doing anything. So when I became big, that was good. As a child and growing up to be me, it was very hard being fat.
Yes. Now, the subtitle is One Woman's Courage to Survive. And you have survived. More than surviving, I think you thrived. What I read was an autobiography written by an eternal optimist whose rose-colored contact lenses got smashed somewhere along the way. But it's still hard to cover up the fact that you're an optimist. There's some desire to thrive there. Let's talk about why I've decided to give this book to our precocious 9-year-old. Was there an intent in writing this book for a specific audience?
Well, the intent was that no matter what can happen to you growing up, no matter what tragedy that you can go through, you can survive. And that even though I went through 3 husbands, even though I had cancer, even though I had a horrible car accident, I always did look at everything was okay. Everything was going to be okay. And everything has been okay. I learned through lack of education that I was still able to run a huge real estate department at John Douglas. I was in charge of marketing, PR, advertising. I had a staff of 30, and never graduated high school.
So how did you overcome those early labels? For one thing, you talk very openly but quite sensitively about the abuse. In talking to your co-writer, how did you decide how much you were going to say and how you were going to phrase what happened to you at the hands of your own father?
Well, we set it up ahead of time, Judith and I. I've known Judith for 35 years. She was my weaving teacher in Seattle.
That's J.I. Kleinberg, your co-writer.
Right, and we set up ahead of time that I did not want to hurt people. I did not want to really destroy their feelings. I just wanted to tell people really what happened without a hurtful thing. So in describing the abuse, I didn't want to say sexually horrible things, because both other sisters really, it's a matter of dealing with all these issues. Now the reality of the book, what happened with the book, is that it brought the whole family together. So if I wrote the book just to do that, that would have been wonderful.
Because your mother's still alive.
Yes.
And has she read the book?
Yes. Now, Mother decided that I was okay. I wasn't fat, stupid, and ugly when I was invited to President Clinton, up to the White House. And all of a sudden, Mother decided, I'm wonderful. But it took that long. Not that I was Vice President John Douglas, not that I raised a wonderful son, but that I was invited to the White House.
Well, thank God you were.
Yeah. I forgot what we said.
Well, in dealing with children and young people at a place called home, where you have young people between 9 and 20, male and female, how do you talk to them about abuse? I mean, you talk about spending 3 years in therapy as a young woman, and the therapist was sensitive enough to realize that you were an abuse survivor, but not ready to talk about it.
Right. Wasn't that brilliant?
That was wonderful.
And he graduated me. He graduated me and said,
which is even more brilliant.
Go on your own.
A therapist that lets you go back out and into the world.
Right. And it was like I was reborn then. After all those years of abuse and married, my first years were like Sybil and the burning bed. So then when I went to therapy, I was like this, I could not see or say anything. And everything I saw was in black and white. When I got through up to my 3rd year of therapy, all of a sudden, you have a white shirt, your eyeglasses, your eyes are blue, you're so beautiful. And all of a sudden I was seeing these colors. I saw flowers for the first time. And people thought I was on acid. And I was just on myself.
That you had been living in a grayscale world.
Right. So if I can share that with young people that have been abused, and there's lots of children that I know in South Central. I don't know children everywhere else, but with the children I'm working with in South Central, I know what has happened. So to be able to share anything with them gives them a little bit of hope. And
to find a space of your own, you chose the family closet. I had a downstairs. We had a backyard with some woods, so that's where I ran to be by myself. But you found a closet.
Oh no, closets when I was a child. Closets when I left my family home and lived with this man. We weren't really a couple. We were just friends. And I decided I was going to take my room in the closet. And I painted it red with a black carpet, and that's where I ate and went in to spend most of my time. Then, really, when I was in the real estate business, I was in charge of marketing and advertising. Well, I can tell you every closet in the city. Carol Burnett, I know Mary Tyler Moore. If you want to know about a closet, just ask me. I'm the closet expert. And then...
You can never have enough.
No. And then, in fact, the woman that I lived with, I walked in, and the first thing I was looking for was the closets. Well, what kind of closet is this? Well, what kind of closet is that?
And that was your safe haven.
Right.
Growing up. Okay. You went to a school called the Academy.
Oh, that's where this all started, the Academy.
And it taught you one very valuable skill, at least one very valuable skill, that you still do today. You want to tell us about your weaving?
Oh, well, no, that was my hair cutting.
The beauty parlor, that's right.
They were all like reform school children. And that's the one thing that, when that came out in the article, I was interviewed by the LA Times. And it said that instead of saying I was in Elgin Academy, it said I was in reform school. So that my mother flips out over. You went to a wonderful school, you weren't in reform school, da-da-da. So that's the type of thing. Anything that brings attention to anything negative, she responds to horribly.
Right. And no matter what happens, you can always go back to cutting hair.
Oh, cutting hair. Now, I cut hair. Sister Pat, Sister Pat, actually, who was Mother Superior of the
Religious of the Convent of the Sacred Heart.
Right.
Yes.
Now she's Mother Superior of the West Side, but she worked at a place called Home as one of the program directors for 7 years. So I've cut her hair. I've cut her hair for 9 years. And then there's a little woman that's in her 80s that I go to and I've cut her hair because she only likes me to come up and cut her hair, but she doesn't like to go out. Then I cut my mother's hair.
So it's a giving.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
I'll cut anyone's hair. You need a trim?
My sideburns definitely need to be trimmed today. And some of my hair is touching my ear. But more importantly, you're able to talk about issues that most people either can't talk about or won't talk about. By the time you're 30 and through the second husband, you're the single mother of a precocious, active 6-year-old boy, and you get cancer. What's it like that first day?
Well, you know what? That was horrible. It wasn't horrible for me, but it was horrible for Gideon.
Oh.
It was horrible. He kept hearing everyone saying that I was going to be dead because I had invasive cancer. I was having a wartime hysterectomy, which is very, very different.
Very radical.
Very radical. And so he kept hearing that I was going to die. And so he kept walking around like that. And he lost his hearing for over a year. So it was very hard on him. Mm-hmm. On me, of course, I thought I wanted to have 6 boys. A whole football is good that I had one.
Yeah.
Alcoholism has proved 1 child is good. More than 1 is probably too much.
But you're able to talk about that. Do you talk about being a cancer survivor with the young people at a place called Home?
Well, I'm happy to if there's ever an issue, because that's not a closed issue to me. Actually, there's nothing closed in my life that I will not tell you. Anything you ask me, I'll tell you. I'll tell anybody.
Those 2 things, the abuse and the cancer, were 2 things I didn't know about you until I read the book. You know, so, and I think it's important to discuss how you presented both sets of information in the book. Detached but sensitive, complete information but not overbearingly amounts of information about both subjects, which I think makes it readable to folks of all levels, that a teenager could read this information and get enough out of it to go on. I think you've had letters from people who say almost the same thing about the book. And
right,
its effect
and the
on
children
you.
have loved the book. The children at Place Called Home have the book. The gang members have the book.
Oh, they do?
Oh, yeah, and they love the book.
Farther on in life, there are issues in recovery. What do you want to tell us about recovery and its effect on your life?
Which part of my life?
Gosh, you've been in recovery now
20 years. I just celebrate 20. May 15th,
oh,
yes.
Congratulations.
Now, May is the month of...
Big month for you, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. May's the month I got
some
sober.
You might want to miss May.
I know. 6-year accident. I just got run over in May. Gideon's birthday is in May. My cancer surgery was in May. So yeah, we should skip May a little.
So you went into recovery 20 years ago, and you're still an active member of 12-step programs. How has this changed your life? How has it affected your life?
It's made me able to deal in my own life. It's made me be able to be open, to really share, to really be able to share with others, especially with other alcoholic women and alcoholic men. It's like, it's such a gift, and so much learning I've had, so much teaching, so much learning.
This happens to you at a point in your life where you're still a single mother, where you're a very successful business person.
And I got drunk at my sister's wedding. Very drunk, very drunk. I left in the back seat of a drug dealer in a Mercedes. That's my sister at the wedding. And I left. I left Gideon there. I left my mother there. I gave him the finger and drove away. And my sister, before she left for her honeymoon, she called my therapist and said, "What have you done? you haven't, and the therapist said, oh, she can quit smoking. Why couldn't she quit drinking? I never could quit smoking. Never. That was like, and so.
That was another closet.
That's why I ended up going to Century City Hospital. That's why I ended up going to Century City Hospital. Then no one ever told me I was an alcoholic. No one ever told me I had a problem with drinking, because they thought drinking helped me. Because my mother thought, well, she's gone through so much, it keeps her calm. No one ever said that I was an alcoholic, except my sister before her wedding said not to drink too much.
Very perceptive.
She did say, but I didn't think of that. So when they said I was an alcoholic, I didn't believe it. And then I actually locked myself in my house and got all this wine and hid it everywhere in the house, which I've never done because I didn't know I was an alcoholic. So that's what happened.
Wonderful. And 13 years ago, come May, you signed papers to start a place called Home. How do you go from running the public relations department of a large firm, directing 30 people on a daily basis, to having a $30,000 budget in the middle of South Central LA, working with 9-year-olds?
No, 14-year-olds. The age limit there was 14 to 22. I only handled the older kids. I decided that was kind of a big problem in raising money, was that people really don't want to fund gang members. They don't want to fund high school kids. They only want to fund small children. I mean, they see us a little face, a little smile. They think, oh, we can help them read, we can help them do this and do that. That's what they want to fund. But I was really serious about this. How I got into this is because I was in charge of giving Douglas's money out into the community. So you would come to me, you were the head of the boys club, you would come to me and say, I need $5,000 for this. I need $10,000 for this. And I'd have to go to Douglas and say,
You'd ask Jack.
Right, he needs this. It would be like a wife going to her husband for a fur coat. And he needs this, he needs that. So then there was that movie Stand and Deliver. I loved that movie. And then the next day after I saw it, there was a full-page ad in the LA Times. In the bottom left, there was a teacher, Roland Ganges, at Jefferson High School. And that did exactly what they did at Garfield. So I went to Douglas and I said, instead of funding the rich brats in Brentwood, why don't we fund the teachers in the inner city? That way you can help 100 kids with your money instead of one kid for a football scholarship. And he said, good. So I sent this teacher cookies and milk from Snooki's Cookies. I figured he'd like that with the class. I never heard. I called him, never heard. Finally, he called me and he said, I don't want Mr. Douglas's money, I want your time. I thought, oh, great. Now I'm dealing with a real nut on my hands. Yeah. Right. So I went down there. And I went into that classroom at Jefferson High, and my heart, they had my heart. And then he said, the one thing you could give to these children is involving these children in the work that you do on the West Side, and showing them they've never seen the West Side, they've never seen this, they've never seen that. So I was on all these different boards. I was on Claire Foundation, Alternative Living for the Aging, National Council of Jewish Women. And I started, and all the children in that school participated in everything that I did. From work out for the homeless, work out for the world, do this, that. And it changed lives. And I saw one person doing this, one person doing that, changed a life. That one broker telling one child one thing, one child telling the broker something, that changed a life. Well, then the fighting occurred, Rodney King. Rodney King. And then everybody was talking about, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We have to either shut down South Central, do something, da-da-da-da. And I decided I really needed to do something else with my life. I really needed to find another job. So I sent out my resume all across the United States. I was willing to do anything to help people, to stop just doing what I was doing. No one responded. And my good friend, David Crippens at KCET, he was also involved with the children of Jefferson when I was, and he sat with me. He said, what do you really want to do with your life, Deborah? What do you want to do? And I looked at him, and nobody had ever asked me that question. No one ever asked me, do you want to be a dancer? Do you want to be this? Do you want to be that? No one ever asked me. All I did was work. And I said, you know what? All I want to do is help the children at Jefferson High School. He said, you could do that. I said, I can? He said, yeah. All you got to do is get a 501c3, get in a church, do this, this. I went up, and I told Mr. Douglas I resigned. And he gave me $50,000, my severance pay. And I started. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea it was going to be what it was.
Tell us what a place called Home's mission is.
The mission is to have a safe haven for the children of South Central. That there's a place for them to get education, there's a place for them to be fed, there's a place for them to get
Food's
help.
an important part of it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That some of them are really hungry.
Really hungry. Sometimes we serve 3 meals a day, and sometimes that's the only one meal that might be the only food that they eat.
All day, and it comes from there.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's really, and so it's like I watch the dancers, and the dancers are so gorgeous. They're dancing Jasmine Guy Dance Studio, and
yoga.
Yeah, but the Jasmine Guy Dance Studio, I get to watch the dancers, and watching the dancers, you look at those children, you look in their eyes, and then you can cry. Mm-hmm. Because you know that they sleep on a mattress without any electricity, without this, and they're doing flying splits in the air, and you see they're beaming with happiness.
So you literally give them another world outside of the reality they deal with every day at home and at school.
Right. They get anything, everything, anything that we can do.
And now
they have therapy. We have a full therapy department.
Mm-hmm. And now you've been doing it 13 years.
13 years.
Now President Emeritus.
Yes.
15, 16 community awards later, recognized as one of the best ways to deal with young people in our areas, in our urban areas. What works? Tell us what makes a place called Home work.
Unconditional love.
Very good.
Unconditional love.
To
and
our
if they
viewing
don't,
audience,
and if they don't give unconditional love, they get fired. So it's very simple. Mm-hmm. You either love these children and embrace them and deal with them and help them, or you don't work with them. And we have 20 people on staff. 20 people work there.
Is there 20 full-time employees?
Yeah.
As well as the volunteers?
Right, and our volunteers are wonderful.
And your ratio of volunteers to students?
Oh, it's not high, because it's so difficult. Volunteers, it's difficult to get down to South Central because it's such a dangerous area. So it's not easy to get that many, but we do have we have 100 volunteers. And
you've attracted a name board. You told me before the show started that if you'd known what it was going to take to get this done, you wouldn't have done it. But in 13 years, you've gone from $30,000 a year to how much this year in budget?
$3.6 million.
How do you fund that?
Day by day. Until a year ago, we really ran month to month. We never have a lot of money. Now we probably have a few months now, because we've had a very good fundraiser. But we raise that money by putting out mailers, and we get repeat donors, and probably 60% of our money is foundations, corporations, and that they have given to us. Say Amundsen gave us $10,000 to begin with. Maybe now they're giving us $25,000. Maybe, and that's what's happened. Everything has gotten bigger as we've gotten bigger, and nobody has dropped us. And our individual donors, we have a lot of individual,
a lot of angels.
A lot of angels.
You talk about in the book the late Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson.
Being one of your early angels.
No, he was my first. He was, when I opened a place called Home, I opened in the church, we're having a party, and someone said, Johnny Carson's on the phone. And I said, oh, right. Because my family's in the motion picture business, and I thought, oh, they're playing a joke. So I get on the phone. They said, 1 minute for Johnny Carson. And then there he was. He said, I want you to know what you're doing. I'm going to send a donation. Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
And that was the first donation. Then he gave 1,000. Then he gave 5,000. Then he gave 10.
Stay involved. Yeah.
My last gift from him was $1 million.
What a wonderful, wonderful story and memory to have.
Yeah, he is really wonderful.
Good. Now let's talk about your future. What's next? What's the next book going to be about?
No more books. No more books.
There's so much left to tell. First of all, there must be some interest in making this a movie.
Well, there was a lot of interest before I wrote the book.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started A Place Called Home, everybody wanted to make a movie when I was in the church. And then it kind of, I didn't want to make a movie. Anyone that asked me to make a movie, all this time until I wrote the book, I said no, because I had to put down the words in a book so that if they come out wrong,
Mm-hmm.
they're not coming from me. Because my book was so loaded, because there was so much abuse.
There must be a movie. They have to have a movie so they can see your son, so they can see all the dogs in and out of your life.
Lots of dogs.
What's the future hold for Debrah Const?
I don't know. I do this one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. I know
you're
that
still doing the art. You're still doing the loom.
I'm doing my art, and at first, because I'm President Emeritus, that means I don't really run A Place Called Home. So that's very hard on me. I like to run everything. But now I find going in, and I teach yoga once a week.
Oh, great.
And then Gianna, my yoga
Great.
teacher, teaches a couple times a week.
And you must tell them back. Let's not make this the last interview. Let's make this the first interview. For Art Inquiry, New Books Department, I've been with Debrah Const, the founder of A Place Called Home, with her new book, Fat, Stupid, Ugly, One Woman's Courage to Survive, published last year by Health Communications.
Health Communications.
For the staff, both in front of and behind the cameras, I want to thank everyone involved in making this day possible. And from me personally to you, Debrah, thank you so much for changing lives one person at a time. Thanks for being here, folks.